Welcome to episode 303 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody here at the Game Deflators Podcast. We like to talk about games. We've recently picked up games we're currently playing, and we appreciate what they had to work with in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
So this week we're playing a little bit of Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord on the NES. And proving we had to do to even get through this game. It's definitely an old one. 1981, I think it was, on the NES.
Yeah, this is an old one. We'll definitely have a good talk about this one later. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about D&D as I break down my first couple of sessions for the new campaign. Then rumors abound. The PS5 announcement is almost upon us. And that timing couldn't be better because Sony is getting ready to sweep Concord under the rug and try to get as far away from that launch as possible.
Yeah, so you can find the Game Deflators on thegamedeflators.com, our up-to-date website as of this recording. And just a heads up, we are recording on September 5th. So if anything seems out of date when you listen to this, it's probably why. So Ryan's out on our normal recording day. You can also find us on social media channels. On X, we are at Game Deflators. On Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, we are at The Game Deflators. You can also find this video on YouTube if you're listening to it right now. Like, subscribe, all that great stuff that comes with it. The little bell doohickey so you know when episodes are up. That'd be cool too.
The proper terminology is smash that like button and ping that subscribe button. Notify, hit the little dangly bell.
I don't know if that's all correct, but we'll go.
I know the smash. I know the smash is right.
Smash the like button. Yeah. What else was I gonna say? Oh,
leave us a comment in the doobly doo.
Yeah, on the doobly too. You're listening to a podcast or watching a podcast, but if you're listening, you're on a podcast application, leave us a 5-star review, like, subscribe on there, leave us a comment, reach out on social media. Yeah, we love it when you reach out.
Do we have video on any other places besides YouTube?
No, just YouTube.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, let's kick it off with our recent pickups. So I have a lot of things, so I'm going to take a pause for a moment as I grab them all. So this is show and tell now, right?
Yeah.
So Dark Souls miniatures, lots of them. So I'm just trying to get the lighting right here. So there's my Mimic. This one that I just showed a moment ago was the Dark Knights. I'm going to keep them stacked behind me for the episode. We've got the Crystal Lizards, a whole bunch of them. God, we got to get right with this lighting. We've got, even better, we've got barrels.
Barrels,
yeah.
Barrels of fun.
And then we'll talk about price in a moment here. This is Sir Alon and the Smelter Demon. Jeez, lighting. It's got to be because of that camera. Like, it's got a little white light that comes out of it. This is where it gets even bigger. We have Dancer of the Boreal Valley and Smog.
Nice.
So, yeah, these are pretty decent sized minis, by the way. I wouldn't even call them minis, right?
All right, they're maxis.
We have the Titanite and Stone, which is pretty big as well. These are sideways in there. And the last one, I'm going to keep piling it.
Man, there's more of those than I remember there being.
This is like part 2 or 3. And then this one is Calamite the Last Dragon. And this is a big one, dude. Like, this is solid. I mean, if you kind of look at the hands, like that's, So let's hope that stays a whole episode and I don't hit it. Price I paid, $60.
Nice.
For all that.
That's pretty darn good, man. That's pretty darn good.
Considering this is normally 35, 35, 35, 25, 18, 18, 18, and 20. Yeah, that's pretty damn good.
They charge 18 for all those barrels?
Yeah. There's a lot of barrels, man. I know. When I saw the price, I was like, who the hell's paying $18 for barrels? No, it was just kind of random. So you had obviously, when we were doing the D&D campaign, your campaign, you pulled one of my Dark Souls minis. I was like, oh shit, that's right. There's a whole other set that came out. And I was like, well, I guess I might as well look at my credit card points and see what's going on there. Didn't even have to worry about it. Some seller on Amazon has this stuff dirt cheap. And it was to the point where I looked at the listing. I'm like, this has to be a scam. There's no way. And I looked at a couple reviews, said, no, it's legit. Like, okay, it's Prime. If it's a scam, I can do a return. Like, let me just pull the trigger. And dude, it was legit. So, I mean, I'm more than happy with that. That's a lot of savings in terms of miniatures, and it'll be great for D&D campaigns. It'll also be great whenever I can get into the Dark Souls role-playing game with everybody, which has 5e rules tied to it. So that was a big pickup there. And then the other pickup I had was Magic cards. So we've got some Bloomborough cards,
Ooh.
all red ones. So we've got Rockface Village, Hired Claw, Heartfelt Hero, and what's the other one? Emberheart Challenger was the other one. So I'm kind of rebuilding my red deck right now. I'm going to be playing some FMN or FNM. Jesus, I don't know why I said FMN. So I'm going to be playing that tomorrow, hopefully, with some friends, and we'll see if my red deck can withstand everybody else's deck that's there if we play. But
Yeah.
I'm love, dude.
I love Bloomborough.
Oh yeah, I was about to
I
say
really
that.
want to try to make a Bloomborough cube out of all the stuff that I've gotten so far.
Yeah, I definitely love the art on these, and I love the concept, right? It's like mouse warrior, rats, raccoons,
Mhm.
all these crazy different like animals that
Anybody
I
who's
like.
ever read Redwall.
I like the woodland critter theme for this, and it kind of
Mhm.
reminds me back when I played things like Larrowin and Shadowmoor, and you had like Kithkins and Merfolk
Yeah.
and all. Like you still kind of have that in Magic, but this feels like that 2009 2010 period when I first started playing Magic. So I really do like this set, and I'm excited to do some drafting with you guys next week.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Um, and then what I'm currently playing right now, so Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Finally kicked that off because I beat Absolov, End of Gods. So to kind of talk about Absolov a little bit, relatively short game. I've got the playthrough on YouTube, so people can check that out. But it's kind of like this futuristic Norse mythology vibe going for it, where you were trying to essentially um, like close out this like evil spirit or something. And then what it turns out is like the instructions you've been given this entire time were really freeing the evil spirit who happens to be Loki. Right. So
Mm.
and
You got
then
tricked.
there's a plot twist that goes along with all of that, the whole Loki thing. So very interesting concept, pretty cool horror game as a whole. It didn't have a ton of jump scares, which I would have expected a little bit more of it, but it did have some. There was a couple occasions where I could feel the goosebumps coming up, and one thing did actually get me, one jump scare, but it wasn't like a drop my controller freak out situation. Quick, like, oh crap, okay, it's gone, time to move on. Like it just wasn't a ton of horror to it, but it was just enough, I
Mhm.
felt, to kind of get things going.
Just some
So
atmosphere.
yeah, primarily, like, when you're walking around, you don't have a flashlight or anything, you have, like, this ability to lets you kinda see in the dark.
Mhm.
Um, like, it gives you somewhat of a night vision, situation going on, not fully. Kinda like dim lighting, actually, if you were dark vision in D&D. It's kinda like that. You can kinda see things, but it's not, like, bright, bright. And then, of course, when you turn it off, you can't see anything, right? So that's kind of the idea, is like that meter, if you were, say, running from something, well, that meter would kind of continue trickling until it goes out, and you have to wait for it to recharge, and you're in complete darkness at that point. So if you're watching a playthrough, you'll see there's times where like I literally just pause in like a location because I know nothing's coming out. I'll go completely black and then let it recharge and then kind of load back up and just do the night vision situation again. Um,
Mhm.
Now, I think a miss in terms of like the developers on this is when you're in that full black situation, if they would have just on occasion put like a jump scare so when the light comes back on, something's there, that would have been creepy. Because then you kind of
Ooh.
have this mindset of like, do I really want to go ahead and do that? You know, do I really want to turn everything off, or do I want to conserve? Like, how do I want to handle this? So they didn't have that in there, and I felt that was a bit of a miss. Gollum, we are on playthrough part number 5. I think it's chapter 4, chapter 5 that we're on right now. It, I mean, honestly, it's not terrible. It's not the like I don't think it's the worst game I've ever played so far. I haven't had any crashes, and I'm getting through it with my wife, but it's not the worst game. I think it's a bit of an overreaction so far from everybody, and you know, from
Okay,
a
so it's not the worst game ever. Is it a good game, or is it
I
just
mean,
tolerable?
it's tolerable. I think like
Okay, so it's work.
the story is not bad. Like the story is actually kind of decent so far and what we're doing. Like his whole concept of like, being imprisoned and trying to
Make friends
manipulate
with the
his
prison warden?
yeah, and like manipulate his way out and all of that stuff. Like it's okay. It's not a bad story. Like it's decent. The gameplay, of course, leaves a little bit to be desired. If you're watching the gameplay, you'll see there's times where we try to make a jump and you have to be pretty precise on it. Or like a couple areas where you're trying to move and like you can't get through an invisible wall. Like that type of stuff, yeah, I could see where it's crappy in that respect, but by all means, like I think it's a 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 rating so far in what I've experienced. I wouldn't put it at like the 1 out of 10 score people are giving it or the negatives or zeros. It's not the worst game. It, like you said, tolerable, but it's decent enough to kind of play through it. So
Says you.
says me. Yeah, says me. I think it's
So
okay.
I really don't give a shit about Gollum. How's Wolong?
So Wolong is pretty good. I have done about 3.5 hours that game. The first
Okay.
boss in Wolong is ridiculous, dude. Because like part of it is like the fact that I continue to play Souls games right over the years, and with Wolong specifically, like you jump in and you're kind of thrown into a battle. Like you go through your tutorial and you're thrown into a battle where it's a boss with 2 phases. So you go through first phase and that's pretty easy. It's just like continually slashing at him basically. Second phase comes in and you're supposed to do like the deflect. And with the deflect situation, you're just learning, right? So it's a little harder to pick things up right away, especially if deflects in a game like that. So basically, that second phase, got through it probably about an hour and a half. That's why I texted you. I'm like, do we really want to have like all of these deaths? And a lot of it wasn't necessarily that I was playing bad. It was just me not having a clear understanding on how to beat the boss.
Still
'Cause
adjusting.
yeah, I was like continually like getting him down to whatever round. I was like, okay, what the hell's going on? Like, I know this blind boy that's with me is what he's called is supposed to like call out and say, okay, now's the time to kill it. I'm like, okay, cool, should be fine, right? Well, it wasn't happening. It turns out that I had to do this deflect thing like 3 times and didn't really realize that. I probably would have beat it, 40 minutes earlier if I would have gone that route. So I had to look it up. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Like, I know this is not, that's a difficult boss, but when you get to a certain point, it ends pretty quickly. And so after watching a video, it's like, oh, you got to deflect 3 times. It boosts up this meter and then you do your final attack and you're good to go. So
Gotcha.
I did that. I beat the second boss last night. So it's like this gorilla wolf thing. I don't remember the name of it, but I beat it within my first try. So it's pretty cool.
Now,
And the only deaths I've had in a game so far have been at the very, very beginning in the tutorial when you're in like this burning city or burning town. And I was honestly, I probably wouldn't have died if I wasn't trying to kind of practice my parrying or deflecting and the special hits. But yeah, so I died in that section, died on the first boss, I don't know, 20 times or something. And then I haven't died since. So yeah.
I wanted to ask because I remember hearing people talk about this game when it came out. There's some kind of system where like you've got like some kind of banner level and you've got to like kind of run around the area and like raise your level and then you fight the boss. And then if you die at the boss, you like lose levels and you got to like get those back or something. Like,
I
how does
forget
all
the
that?
I forget the name of what it's called. I gotta look it up to honestly see like read into it more to see how it all works. Because there's some things that are still kind of confusing. Like you have your dragon flask or something, which is your flask to be able to heal. Um, with that system that you're talking about in particular, I'm trying to figure out like how it works with magic and stuff right now because
Mhm.
it's I'll call it a prestige mode. I don't think it's the right term for it, but like let's just say you have your prestige mode. Every time you kill an enemy, or get to a certain point within that meter, it boosts up like you're saying. So you're like 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. There's enemies within the level that also have like that prestige number as well. So in the beginning, it's like a 1 and a 2. You might see somebody at a 3 or 4, and it's like, oh yeah, that one's tougher. I was at a point in one of the levels where it was like a 15, and my companion that was with me is like, "Oh, we don't want to go there yet. We want to avoid that because there's such a high level." Well, I killed it. Like, it wasn't an issue.
Mhm.
Um, and so you continue seeing like that increase throughout the different levels. So the highest I've seen so far, I think, has been a 20. And I think since my last save or when I paused it last night, I was at like, I want to say 18 or 19 on that like
Okay.
level. But where I'm having a kind of a little bit of an issue with is like the magic. So
Mhm.
you have the ability to like unlock different types of magic within different areas of expertise. Like they have a star type thing, and then basically like one star is like red, you got blue, green, like earth, wind, water, fire, I think is what it was, pretty much the elements. And within each of those elements it has like kind of a sphere grid to be able to get different types of magic, and so they all have like this number at the very top. I'm trying to figure out how the heck to get that number boosted up, what to do with it, how to get other magic abilities that are tied to those. um it's one of the frustrating things I've noticed so far is like the weapon pickups. I've picked up like the same weapons with the same star rating like 4 or 5 times. And then on top of that, I haven't seen like a difference between a 2 star of the same weapon compared to a 3 star. Like I'll say, okay, equip this one. All right, what are the stats if I do it at a 3 star? Nothing. No difference so far. So I gotta do some reading up on it, but I'm enjoying the gameplay so far. It's pretty fun. It's not as challenging as I would have thought so far outside of that first boss. And like I said, I do think if I would have just been a little more patient and kind of just recognized, yep, you got to do that 3 times, I would have been good on that first boss as
Mhm.
well. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure the next boss will be pretty difficult. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I think I'm pretty close based on the progression I made last night after that second boss. So,
Nice.
yeah, relatively short game. I've been looking into, I think it's like 25 hours or so.
Okay.
So these are types of games where I don't fall asleep actually when I'm playing. So I could start this at like 10 o'clock and go to 1 o'clock if I really wanted to. I'm trying not to. But I've been trying to start around 8:39 and go to about 11 to play. So usually I'm getting these gameplay sessions, I've been getting about 50 minutes in, but I had one that was about an hour and a half or so.
Nice.
Yeah. So overall, pretty good. How about yourself?
So I picked up Animal Well for the Switch. That's going to be
Oh, nice.
my trip game as I'm leaving town this weekend. I'm going to be locked in an airplane for a few hours on the way there, on the way back. Maybe have some time just chilling in bed to be able to play a game while I'm gone. So Animal Well was a game that came out earlier this year. Got really good reviews. It's like a fun new indie Metroidvania type game. So I like that. It's not supposed to be that long, but it's supposed to be pretty innovative and fun. And it's a game that I really wanted to play when I could really sit down and focus on it and try to get through as much as I can. Because a lot of the time, those kind of games, if you stop playing something with like a big giant map and a lot of like dependent built knowledge, you kind of can't really jump right back into it. So we'll see how far I get on this one.
Nice. What about Bug Fables?
Bug Fables I have downloaded on the Xbox. So I need to set aside time where I can hook the Xbox up and get it streaming to that like Twitch stream so that we can get it to stream to the YouTube stream so that we can put the footage online so that everybody can be like, "Man, Ryan's as bad as John."
Yeah, I do have it labeled on the website as a currently playing item. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about playing it. That counts.
I'm still really happy with how the website turned out.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah,
great.
yeah,
To tell everybody what I should be doing.
yeah. I mean, it's on there. It says that we play a lot of great games, and well, so far it's only me and my
Yeah.
wife. She's playing them too. So
Yeah, yeah. I'll get there.
yeah,
So,
eventually.
anyways, this week I haven't really had time to be playing anything. I've been a busy boy outside of work and have not had a lot of time. So, no gaming news. Well, no gaming playing news from me. I did try to. Oh, actually, you know what? No, I lied. I lied. I did buy 4 booster packs for the One Piece card game. Actually, I did, and I got some. I don't even know if they're good cards. Like, I really don't have a basis for this yet. Like, I've been doing a little bit of reading online. I was looking on Amazon at like cards.
Just go to TCG.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
yeah, they're on there.
What? Yeah, I know that, but like, I'm trying to put together like a birthday list of stuff and add it to like an Amazon wish list that I have, so that if anybody wants to get me anything, I could just like put that, hey, here's something. So I was looking to see if you could buy like One Piece cards on Amazon. And I mean, it looks kind of sketchy. There's like reviews that are like, oh, I ordered this, but like it was obviously opened and tampered with and missing the promo card. But then the seller has like 4.6 stars, and it's like, I just don't really feel comfortable. And a lot of it is like Japanese product and not like English product. So I don't think that that's really the best place to be looking for that type of stuff.
Amazon is usually not too bad when it comes to TCG cards, but it's more so the sealed product, and ordering directly from Amazon is generally going to be your better bet.
Yeah,
TCG,
I didn't see any like Amazon explicit like them sellers. It was all like other sellers, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I mean, some of these like sealed boxes are fine, but like, I'm not asking for like a sealed box. That's like way too much.
Yeah, TCG is always where I go.
Yeah.
For any singles, I would never go to Amazon for singles.
Oh, I'm not even at the point of buying singles. Singles is usually where I start to like lose it. Like, I like ripping packs and having fun. I think that there's a sealed format for the One Piece TCG. So if there is and it's fun, I'll probably, like get a box and explore it that way. I've got some plans to meet up with an old friend who plays, learn a little bit more about the game and talk to him about it sometime next week. So maybe next episode, I'll have some more info on that.
Yeah, and I'll play some One Piece card game with you. I'm not going to get into buying it because, well, I already got so much crap, right?
Yeah.
But I'll definitely play.
How are you going to not, though, John, once I go in?
By not buying it. So I will steer clear of that one. That is one area. Like, dude, come on. Like, I'm buying Magic singles. I got so many Magic cards. I do not need another TCG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm good. I have D&D, Magic, miniatures, video games,
all
books.
kinds of board games.
Yeah, all kinds of board games.
You're never going to play Gloomhaven.
I want to play Gloomhaven so bad, but I can't get anybody to play it with me.
Yeah, because nobody has time for a second degree.
What do you mean? Dude, it's just you take the game, you take a few pictures, you set it aside. When people come over the next time you play, it's only, I want to say it's only like 6 sessions of play.
Yeah, but like the rules, John. It's going to take
That's
6 sessions to understand what's happening.
So here's my plan. All of my board games, my D&D sessions, my son is going to be the biggest nerd because we are going to have game night whenever we can do it when he's a little older.
Your son's going to grow up and reject all of this and be a sheep farmer.
I'm going to be so sad if he does. He's going to be like, no, Dad, I like playing with Yu-Gi-Oh! And my favorite video game is Kirby. And
come on, Dad, it's all about Bakugan.
Oh, God. He's going to be like, let it rip, Beyblade.
There you go.
Yeah, no, that'd be very disappointing. Let's get into your D&D campaign since we're talking some D&D.
So I started running a D&D session for our group. I have DM'd everybody in our group, I think, so like their first time, right?
Just a point to make, though. You already talked about where we got to Rainy in his tower in the last...
Oh,
yeah.
Did I? And I forgot about it? Okay.
Yep.
So anyways, previously on D&D, the group had all gotten to the Wizard Rainy in the town of the Twin Tails, and they were being sent off in pursuit of the son of a noble who was looking for adventure. So they went out and the group, of course, did what any adventuring party does. They're like, which way? Oh, directly that way. And then proceed to ford rivers and do all of this stuff, just kind of assuming that the person that they were after also did that instead of taking the road. So I kind of clued them in after they forded the first river to let them know, hey, you guys got a broom and all this stuff, but you should have maybe gone the other way. So I'll help you beeline in the direction. You guys are trying to cut time, I said.
Maybe you should do some perception checks and be like, you see a wooden sign with an arrow that says this way.
Right? Exactly.
That would have got us.
Um, they start going through traveling, trying to, basically needle in a haystack, find a guy in a field that's, a big giant field. Like, it's not like the modern day where it's like there's roads blocking stuff off and rest stops and whatever. So they're out, and at night they see some floating lights in the distance, and they get very intrigued by that, but they don't want to like go and get all amongst it at night. So they wait till morning, go to where they saw the lights, and they do find Thomas's character actually. And you guys all got together and formed like the full party at that point that we're going to have for the adventure. And just as you guys were going and getting to the area where the will-o'-the-wisps were kind of leading you towards the night before, a huge eruption from underground as a cadaver collector springs to life in the midst of this ancient battleground. And that's basically where we left off. Like, I was actually really surprised that that's basically all that happened. Now that I talk about it.
Well, a lot of it kind of stemmed from the fact that we were trying to figure out how to get across the river. We had a toddler and a 4-month-old.
Yeah, that's true. We're dealing with more than just the forces of D&D here.
Yeah, and when you got my son running around trying to roll dice and putting dice in his mouth, that usually doesn't equate to a very easy time playing D&D. But no, I mean, a lot of it was shenanigans too. Like, Thomas and I were like, oh yeah, we'll hang back and we'll just kind of wait for you all to hold your invisibility spell and everything else. And of course, me with my shenanigans was like, hey Thomas, I'll roll you. We'll play a little game of chance. If I beat you in a dice roll, then you have to drop your invisibility spell on our new friends that we've met. And Thomas was like, oh, okay, I'll roll you for it. Well, little to Thomas's knowledge, I had a charlatan dice that allowed me to choose my roll on a D6. So he's like, oh, I got a 5. I'm like, yep, I got a 6. What a coincidence. So
there you go.
Yeah, it was a good time. And it's not to do anything like chaotic evil. Like me, metagame wise, I knew what it was. It was spirits, basically. So there was nothing truly to be scared about. It was more so just a humor in, that occurring. So yeah. And then of course, as a bard, I get to play the saxophone whenever I do anything. So it's great. So I'm trying to befriend everyone in the party. That's also the best part. So
yeah,
my stats suck, dude. I've never had a character this bad in D&D. Like I want to say my highest is like a 16 or 18, and it's only because of magic items that I've been able to boost up that specific stat. Everything else is a 10 or a 10 the whole way.
Yeah.
10s and 11s all the way across the board. So,
but I'm having fun. I really like DMing. It's nice to get back on the other side of the screen. I am excited to continue pushing this story along and see how you guys like it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to finish it so I can get back to Strixhaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be pretty fun.
I know, and we've got this other break right now. We're in like a 2 or 3 week lull for a wedding and some other stuff. So hopefully we get back into it and we don't have to worry about taking any more breaks for a little while. Yeah, I know we've got the holidays only a few months away.
Yeah, that won't be too bad. I mean, we'll be out of town at some point, but
I think Christmas and stuff is on like a Wednesday this year, isn't it?
That doesn't matter. Take PTO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it'll be about 3 weeks until we have the next session, I think. So, all right. Well, let's dive into some articles. So the first one I have noted here is PlayStation 5 Pro. This is yours. PlayStation 5 Pro to be announced next week at a State of Play featuring first-party games that are coming in September.
Yeah. So this is a rumor that we've been hearing online. Looks like it's from Lunatic Ignis. Somewhat reliable leaker in the past few months. correctly revealing among other things May's State of Play and the Black Myth Wukong expansions. So this guy has been right about a few things. I know a lot of people are really into following leakers. I just kind of look at the articles about them when they come out. So it's hard for me to really keep track of who said what when and being on the cutting edge of, just getting the info out there. But it seems like they're saying that, there might be State of Play where we finally get a breakdown of the PS5 Pro. I know that I had seen some leaks online about, either renders or images of what it's supposed to look like. I think what it was that somebody had seen it and then they described it to an artist who rendered it for everybody, and it looks very similar, I suppose, to like a discless PS5, but it has these like big stripes kind of on the side. So at this point we don't know, is it going to have a disc? Is it going to be discless? Is it going to have the attachable disc drive like the Slim does? How big is it going to be? Like a lot of these questions we don't know. I am going to be disappointed if I still don't like the look out of it. And then I just have to pick, what's the least ugly PS5 that I want. I mean, I'll probably wind up going with the Pro at some point, but I have heard some other people talking recently about like power and that it might be surprisingly more capable than what the current PS5 is, and really make a difference on, that 60 FPS ray tracing capabilities that I feel like it still struggles with. And, we still feel like a lot of the next gen promises haven't been fully fulfilled yet.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at the article earlier, the thing that kind of stuck out to me was, oh, it might be a digital only console, and if that's the case, I won't be getting one. I've got a PC, right, and the PC is going to have just as good of a video card as whatever comes through on the PS5 Pro. So I'm all good in that respect. Now, if it does have a disc version, then I will likely trade in my existing PS5 and get a Pro console. That'd be the way that I go, or I guess sell it, to somebody local and go about it that way. But yeah, so that was kind of disappointing. I did see in that image rendering you were talking about, I did see somebody tried to either guess or said that they uncovered what the price point is going to be. And it was a little conflicting in that regard because they had a disc-based version that they showed at $700 and then a digital version at $600, which seemed kind of weird. It seems kind of high for a console, in today's market, considering, what the PS5 originally cost when it came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. They say that this guy has leaked a few things successfully in the past, but you never know, man. Like until it actually happens, it's all rumors at the end of the day.
I mean, also we're gonna get some new game stuff. Like we won't forget that. Possibly a world premiere. So maybe we'll get to see some, really interesting new things from PlayStation. Because, I mean, like we're going to talk about next with Concord. And I mean, I guess we can mention like Astrobot came out and that's been getting really well received from what I've heard. So it'd be good to see some more stuff coming to PlayStation. And, if they're going to show off the PS5 Pro, man, they might as well show something that's going to look absolutely spectacular on that console.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then I guess diving into Concord, right? So that's going to be taken offline September 6th. Today's the 5th. So tomorrow apparently is when it's getting taken offline at the time of this recording. And Sony's going to be determining the best path moving forward for that one. And this article is coming from Gematsu. So, no surprise here. We talked about this, I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. When Concord was released, it only had like 700 players at one time on Steam. It was looking like a complete flop. And we had discussed the possibility of it being probably a free-to-play game with microtransactions and things of that nature kind of being built in later on, which is honestly how it should have been released from the start. I don't know why they threw a $40 price tag on a game that is, in all honesty, very similar to other games that are in market right now. It shouldn't have had a price tag at the very start. And that's likely, that was probably a major barrier for people. I'm sure that as a free to play game, it may get more players at that point, and it may generate some more interest. And given all the negativity that surrounded it too, it's got a lot of free marketing that's come out of this. And from what
Mhm.
I've heard, it's not a terrible game. The game itself is actually pretty good. It's just in a market that's completely flooded with these types of games right now.
They made a lot of just slightly wrong choices that really should have been ironed out before going to like a full launch. And they did those beta tests, like a month or so ago. The numbers just weren't there. And one of the biggest reactions that I've seen has been, you know, who are these people listening to? Because nobody was hyping this game. Like there wasn't anybody who was like out there really standing for this to come out and generating any kind of buzz. There was only a few thousand people playing during the open beta, which was when it was free and would probably be achieving, like good projection numbers. So it's like there was a lot of feedback telling Sony that this was not going to do well. So I can't imagine that they can really act too surprised about, the results. And I know that, once you acquire a studio based on a concept and then 8 years goes by, I mean, a lot of things had to go wrong or sideways during that time to reach the conclusion that you got to. But some people are saying, this is going to get pulled off and then they'll re-release it maybe later on. I say don't throw more bad money after good money. Let this game studio just move on to something else that they could do better and just scrap all this. I don't think it's worth saving. But I do want to ask John, have you heard about the like insane prices people are trying to sell physical copies of the game for now?
Yeah, I saw that. Like I knew right away when they were like, "Oh yeah, physical copies." I thought it was a digital only release actually. So when I saw the physical copies in people's hands, I just picked this up. It's going to be super rare. I mean, from a physical standpoint, yeah, it will be kind of rare because it only sold X amount of copies. It was pulled from store shelves, and it's going to go for stupid money. But here's the thing: it requires network access to be able to play it.
Mhm.
So cool, you'll have this physical copy, but sealed, and it's not even like a game on the disc at that point. You basically have a
Yeah.
download code for something that's been pulled off.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, it'll be cool from a physical collector standpoint to have something like that. I had a little bit of FOMO to be honest when I looked at it. I was like, oh man, that kind of be cool to have in the collection as like,
Yeah.
this game that was pulled off shelves and it's going to be slightly rare because of that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, nah, it's not worth it. Let's worry about that.
We
I
should try
do.
to remember this moment and like spec on a stinker in the future.
Yeah, right. Gollum. there's
Gollum.
your stinker. Um, what was the other thing I was going to note? Oh yeah, I just want to clarify a point too, because you had mentioned like an 8-year period after acquiring studio. So I think Firewalk, I think this studio was acquired. I want to say a few years ago. So it was already in development. Sony kind of saw the promise, acquired them, and then it was finished up to this point.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and also to your point, like who are they listening to in regard to hyping up this game and making it like the next best thing? I have no idea. Like if they weren't getting people during the beta phase to show any interest, and they were probably doing some sort of like closed room discussion with different consumers on what could work and what might not work. It just doesn't make sense that this game was released at a $40 tag with everything else that's out there. And
Yeah.
and when I first saw the game, I was like, "Wow, this is a cool game." I actually like the overall theme and different characters and what's happening. And then it turned into like battle royale shooter or whatever the hell it is. I'm like, "Nope, I have no interest in playing this now." So,
Yeah.
because there are so many other games out there.
And this was one of those games that like when they announced it like a year ago, we got just like I think it was like an inside shot of like a sandwich on a desk or something inside of like a spaceship, and I just remember like some colors and stuff. Like it was one of those lame teasers that is absolutely nothing. And it's like, oh, they were so excited to share this game that they had to let us just see something that had nothing to do with the game. Like, it's like, imagine if the next Elder Scrolls was like actually a Elder Scrolls themed Tetris game, but they had that flashy splash like Elder Scrolls logo 10 years beforehand.
Hey, that's what we're gonna get, right? Elder Scrolls 6 Tetris Edition.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. They hyped it up as, something that everybody's gonna want to play, and end of the day they didn't. And did you also see the article that came out recently at Sony said something about like they don't have enough IPs to be able to
I heard
like
people talking
revive
about
things?
that this morning.
Yeah, I was looking at 'em, it just didn't make any sense. You have Sly Cooper, you've got Kratos, you've got
Well, so
Sackboy,
that's the
Astrobot,
thing
like
that
all of that.
I heard people talking about is like Mario is like Mario. He's in
Yeah,
all the games, he's in the titles. God of War, you have Kratos, that's like a big one. I mean, they've got what's her face from the big dinosaur robot
Aloy,
games,
Aloy.
Aloy.
Yeah,
They just made that Lego game, but it's like a lot of those older IP, like nobody knows. Like kids today don't know who Sly Cooper is, even though
yeah,
they
but
were working on a movie for that in like 2009 that never came out.
like you've got
A lot
Ratchet and
of
Clank, you've got Sly Cooper, you've got Jack and Daxter. You have all of these different,
yeah,
you
but
know.
most of those games are like more than a decade old now.
So I
Ratchet
mean,
and Clank's the only one of those that's had a recent release where it's
continual.
recognizable IP.
Yeah, Sly Cooper didn't have anything on PS4. Well, no, Sly Cooper had like a remaster type thing. I think it was on PS3, and then I want to say PS4 had like a remaster through limited run games. Now, obviously, it's not what you're referring to in terms of new IPs, because I think the last one
Just
came out.
recognizable IP.
Yeah, I want to say PS2 was all the Sly Cooper games. Same with like Jack and Daxter and such. I want to say. Um, but still, I mean, it doesn't matter if an IP is that old because that's a recognizable character from back then. And you have people like you and I who, in my case, I have a child. There's other people our age who have older kids that are playing games right now. Like Darren, his kids are, I want to say like 12 and are playing games. Like if Sly
They're playing
Cooper was,
Fortnite.
yeah, but see, here's the thing. If Sly Cooper was released as a new game coming out, Darren would be excited. I would be excited. If my kid was
Yeah,
older,
but like
he would play it
that's
with
the
me.
thing. Sony wants Fortnite numbers. They don't want like old dad numbers.
But that's the thing. Like you don't continue things on through the next generation without putting out those older IPs to get the parents in our generation excited to then get their kids excited. Like you don't continue that. Like that's why Mario's so successful. Mario has
Because they
continued.
never stopped making
They
Mario
never
games.
stopped. Exactly.
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank is even getting to a point now where it's not as recognizable for certain generations. Me, yes, because I've seen it, I played it every single.
Well, they made that whole reboot in a movie like 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it was actually a pretty decent movie. I didn't mind it. It kind of reminded me of the first game. But the point being is like Nintendo has kind of kept along with Zelda and Mario and Peach and Bowser and all these different characters, Kirby and Donkey Kong. All these characters over the years they're recognizable and you continue to see them every generation and multiple times in a generation. Whereas with Sony, it's the PS2 is honestly the best era for those different franchises. You had Crash Bandicoot multiple times, Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, uh, God of War at that point in time. All of those games were coming out during that one era of PS2. And then for whatever reason, PS3, they just like abandoned that model of multiple releases for the same characters. So you had one God of War and then like the
I
PSP
think there was
versions.
2 God of Wars.
You only had God of War 3, and then you had the PSP versions that were redone and released.
There was the
and then
co-op one. God of War
co-op
like
one.
Ascension or something.
Yeah, but that was a re-release of like PS2 and PSP games. They had different like collections that were released. So your only new game was God of War 3 at that point. You know what I mean? Like there
Yeah.
isn't enough like continuation with those characters to just show, as people are growing up, as their kids are growing up, that they're growing up along with these characters and continue with those IPs. So I get Sony's point
Mario
of
hasn't really grown up.
Mario hasn't. He's the same age. He's plenty of Botox and Ozempic. That's what it is. So yeah, I see where Sony's coming from, but at the same time, you kind of have to keep releasing these games and these characters to be able to develop that love for those characters and those games. And they're
I
not
think they
doing that.
got something with Astro. I think he's a good one to latch onto.
Well,
But
they
like
have
I
it with
also heard
Sackboy
people
too.
saying that like in all of this hype, like they put all their money on Concord, and there's been like 2 trailers for Astro. But
Yeah, and apparently they've got another live service game that's coming out. Like,
we'll see.
I think Sony is really kind of shooting themselves in the foot right now with the way that they are handling their existing IPs. So, all right, let's go into another IP. So, Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord on Nintendo. So this is developed by Game Studio, published by Nextsoft, designed by Andrew Greenberg and Robert Woodhead, and it was released in September of 1991. It is a role-playing game very similar to Dungeons. It really is Dungeons and Dragons. It's a dungeon crawler, and it was very well received at its time. 20 out of 25, 17 out of 40, so not a ton of scores, but overall they weren't bad. At one point, it was rated as one of the top games of all time. I want to say in the 80s or 90s, so kind of tells you why it would have been at that point.
1984, Softline readers named game most popular Apple program of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it was for its time, it was stellar, right? It was great, but in what it is today, we'll go into in a bit, but it just doesn't hold up to today's gaming. So, and I want to say one of these designers, I think it was Andrew Greenberg or Robert Woodhead, coincidentally, after I sent you a list and said, hey, these are games that we should play, I saw something about, I want to say it was one of them two passing away recently.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it was just like this major coincidence that you and I had selected our games. I said Wizardry, and then I'm going through Twitter and I just saw, oh, Wizardry head designer or something passes away. So yeah, I'll have to verify that one, but that was interesting.
So yeah, Wizardry is not a game type I've ever played. Like if you're trying to imagine what this game is like, think text box and then think hallways. Like that screensaver on like the Windows 95 or whatever. So basically you start off in, we'll call it a town, but it's a list of places, and you recruit a party. You can go to like the tavern or the cleric or the shop. You spend gold, you level up, you go get, your guys healed or revived at the cleric, all that kind of stuff. And then when you're ready, you set out into the maze. Now the maze is like 20 by 20 grid leveled floors with no internal map in the game. So if you want any idea of where you are or what you're doing, you need some grid paper, my friend. You need to get good, because this game will kick your ass. It was brutal. I think I lost all 3 of my fighters in like the first 2 fights, and then like, man, my wizards and thief held it down for a while. But yeah, this is just one of those really brutal old school dungeon crawlers where you just got to be so conservative and probably like run away and heal all the time. Like I just kind of messed around. Like I really wasn't giving it the best shot, but it's not a game that's that compelling now for me personally. But honestly, seeing what they did and how well it was received back in the day, really got to give them credit and say that, this was a really good start to what we have now.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a great feel as a dungeon crawl. And I'll do a synopsis here as well. So it's one of the first dungeon crawling video game adaptations of tabletop role-playing games. You basically create a first party and delve into dungeons to find treasure and gain experience, of course. The ultimate goal is to reach the bottom of the maze and defeat the arch-wizard Wordna. The game is known for being very hard, as you stated, and can take a long time to complete. So back in the day, they said that this was a game that could take hundreds of hours to complete. How long to beat actually has it at 25 hours. Still, insane amount of hours. Like
25 hours if you do it like right in one go.
Yeah, and if I had a choice of Wolong Fallen Dynasty or Wizardry in 2024, both at 25 hours, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be playing any Wizardry at that point, and I'm just going to use my imagination and play D&D of Ryan on a week, right?
Yeah.
It to me, it was not. I could see and I can appreciate why it was such a great game for its time. I felt like playing it, I felt it, right? I knew exactly what people were feeling at that point in time. I do like the combat system that they have in place. There's several monsters that come up. It's 4 kobolds, right? And your fighter, what is your action? Are you attacking? Are you parrying? Are you running? Like, what are you doing? And then just kind of progressing through the different characters, being able to level up your skills that you have as you would in a tabletop RPG, going through a dungeon.
Did you
Oh,
get to level up?
I beat probably 4 or 5 different fights. I ended up my thief ended up dying because a chest blew up. I had an
Did you
exploding
not
chest.
check it for traps?
I didn't think at first, and then I checked it for traps the second time. It was cool, exploding chest, no big deal. Second one, I'm like, well, maybe it's a poison arrow or something. So I checked for poison arrow. Nope, exploded in my face, and he died.
Oh,
So
you could just like investigate. It'll tell you what the trap is, and then you
no,
disarm the type of trap it was.
I didn't think to go that far into detail. I was just enjoying it, going through.
That's the best thing I did was I got stuff with my thief. I was like, yeah, I could do this part.
Yeah, I got like plenty of gold and stuff. And when you think about how the game, how you're
Did you
supposed to
try
beat
to
the
go to the
game,
church with dead
yeah,
people?
well, yeah, after the fact, because they all died and I had to revive them, right?
They're like,
So
you poor, get out of here.
yeah, you can't afford to help your person that just died. They're just gonna rot here now. No, so and you can create characters over and over again, right? The game doesn't save, so that's VAT too. So that's an issue. There's no specific save point.
You could save
Um,
in town, just not in the dungeon.
yeah, so it's like once you're done with whatever part of the dungeon, that's why you have your grid map, of course, to figure out where you're going on every single level. Um, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? You go through the dungeon, you get a couple fights in, you gain some experience and some gold, you go out, you go ahead and use that gold to get better weapons, you go back in the dungeon, rinse and repeat until you finally get down to that like final level, right? To beat this wizard. So I understood the concept right away. I could appreciate what was going on, but it doesn't hold up in 2024.
No,
It
not
just
quite.
doesn't. Not at all. So there are so many other games that are a very similar concept. I want to
There's
say
remakes of this game,
you have
modernized.
yeah, you have better games out now, right? Like you have Kingsfield that came out on like PS1 and PS2, which are that kind of dungeon crawl style game as well. So there's a lot of better games that have been released over time that follow a very similar pattern to this. Maybe not to the same extent of you're attacked by 4 monsters and the text based stuff. But there's other stuff. There's even card games and board games that you can buy that follow a very similar pattern of like text based combat and storytelling. So would I go out of my way to buy this? No, not at all. So, brass tacks, let you go into it.
Complete in box, this game's going to run you $69.01. Hey, and that peaked at 76.22 back in March 2024. That is trending down currently. A loose copy will run you 1603. That peaked at 1978 back in July of 2024. It's currently trending up. Like I mentioned, there is a digital version of a remake of this game that's going for $39.99 on Switch and digital on PC for $34.99. And I'm going to go ahead and say it because I've said it before. I like the cover on this game.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty
Gets
badass
points
cover.
for that.
Yeah, I do like that. It's a cool piece. I mean, if you're looking at it from a collector standpoint and you're looking at it for Dungeons and Dragons, TTRPG, like that's the type of stuff you like to collect. This is a really cool piece to have specifically, like you said, for the cover and all of that. Is it a game that is worth playing right now? Probably
No.
not. I mean, there's other games that are, yeah, you're a definitive no on it. So I think it's 1603. It's very much inflated
I
by
will
today's standards
say
and what you can get.
that I think the NES version probably looks better than the original version that came out, which is probably not something that you would usually say because I think in the original one there's a very small window that you would be looking at. So I think the NES is the good one in this situation.
Yeah, and you
I
know,
mean,
it's
there's
kind of
probably better computer game versions that came out later, but I like the look of this one a little bit.
well, you know, it's funny. You had mentioned earlier, like the grid paper and all of that, and I don't recall if you mentioned it, but um, the game itself, the reason it doesn't have like the map built in is because it wasn't invented yet,
Mhm.
apparently. So that's kind of a cool fact. When I was playing the game, just realizing like, okay, there's no map. That's doesn't surprise me, right?
We don't
I would
need
have to get some
maps.
paper, but yeah, the fact that it wasn't invented yet, I think, is a cool thing.
Mhm.
So this is an old ass game, dude. This is what 43 years old? No, not 43. Didn't you say 81 was the original
Uh,
release?
yeah, 91.
Oh, 91. I could have sworn you said 81. It would have been 81 and then re-released on Nintendo in 91, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So technically speaking, the game is a 43-year-old game. That's kind of insane. That
Yeah.
might be one of the older games. Now we played some Atari, but it's pretty close to being the older
How old's the
games.
Vectrix?
I want to say 85. Let's see. Vectrix. Vectrix was released in October of 1982. So this
Mm.
actually beats the Vectrix. And the Vectrix is only out, by the way, with General Consumer Electronics from 1982 to 83 and a Milton Bradley company from 1983 to 84. If you're interested to hear more about our experiences with the Vectrix, we have some prior episodes. I want to say it's like episode 64. I don't remember. Check the
Go
backlog.
back in time. Check it
Go back
out.
in time. Look at all of
Leave
our
us a
episodes
like.
and a
Tell us what
subscribe.
the future was like.
Yeah, leave the comments. Coming back to you from the future. And then we have another Vectrix episode at some point where it
We did
wasn't
more
like,
Vectrix.
well, yeah, we of course, because the Vectrix is a fantastic system, believe it or not. We had my multi-cart that I picked up. I
Mhm.
think we just have a review on Vectrix multi-cart somewhere. So good times. We got to do that again. Maybe we do a triple threat throwdown with the Vectrix one day. That'd be pretty
Yeah.
fun. Yep. All right. Well, for now, this has been episode 303 of the Game Deflators podcast. My name is John,
I'm Ryan.
and thanks for listening and watching too.